So, good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 10 a.m. talks. And we're very, very lucky to have Kay Ridgway with us this morning. Kay is a naturopath, and she's a very, very dear friend of ours and helps us all the time. Anyone has any problems with their health or anything, Kay's there, and she gives from her heart. And she's dressed in green today, and she's always loves anything to do with green. Green vegetables she loves, and gardens, forests, everything green she loves. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and then we'll have time. If you want to ask anything, you can ask also a question. So, dear Kay, so what made you decide to be a naturopath? What was it that made you decide that?
The only decision was that in 1977, I made a phone call to the College of Natural Therapies and booked in. After that, there was no change really. I just formalised what I was always doing. And someone handed me a book when I first moved to the mountains by Dorothy Hall called The Book of Herbs. And I read this every day, cover to cover, and this is before I did the course. But even then, I couldn't stop growing things and herbs and what they did. And I went to bed with this book beside my bed every day. And then the person who gave me the book said, do you know Dorothy Hall's starting? She was a very well-known herbalist, and they didn't call us naturopaths in those days. She was a herbalist, and with great knowledge and great popularity. And she said, do you know she's starting courses? And I thought, well, here we go. Here's another message that. So that was the decision I made. But the only one I remember was actually saying, yes, I'm going to do this. And then that just took off from there. So there wasn't much difference, except that instead of working I worked in a surgical company. I always wanted to work in health, and I was assessed at 14 through the vocational guidance that I was suited to nursing or dietetics. And that was when I was 14. So it was kind of like my great love in life was health and good food and connecting with people and everything. And so I thought, nursing, dietetics, that all sounds good. But then all I did was I just kept living my life in the way of learning about food. And it's really embarrassing when I say this, but I used to go in my early 20s, my poor mother, I used to go to the dining table with a book of mineral and vitamin analysis and I'd work out how much I was getting in the meal that she'd put there. And then when she was dying, the poor dear, we spent many hours together, and she told me how much stress I gave her when I was a small child, that I used to tell her what she could eat and what she couldn't eat. So and I was cooking at 5, and you know,
5 years of
it just
age. My
and I've
goodness.
been cooking ever since. So you know, it's just it followed, but it was always cooking with the idea of goodness. You know, goodness, and that was in the food and the miracles of food. I just can't tell you. The longer I live, like now, the new science is telling us and confirming everything that grandma said or the old books would say, that what's in everything and what they do. But we now know it from science, and there are, untold thousands of studies on food. There are even 5,000 just on turmeric alone, proving,
I'm
proving that
cheering.
it works, that it does what it's said to do. So that's the way it went for me.
That's very, very beautiful. And I love the story you tell about when you were little, how you went to church on your own. Can you tell us? I just love the way you described that.
Well, see, I don't recall any decisions I made. It was just when I was 5, I started cooking, and when I was 5, I started walking right across from one end of Rose Bay to the other, getting dressed up. Nobody came with me, but I went to church every Sunday. And it was so normal. And then we moved to Bondi Junction when I was 6, 7, somewhere between 6 and 7. And the first thing I had to do was find out where the church was. So we were down in Bondi Junction, and the church was in Bellevue Hills. So once I found where the church was, I used to again put on, I remember some of the little dresses I wore. You know, we wore kind of little velvety quilted things, and I just went on my own, and no one ever said anything in the family. It
That's
was just
amazing.
Kay's, well, no one even ever said Kay's gone to church. I just went to church. So it just seems like the spirit of what I was going for also manifested in the foods, that was expressing and supporting the physical body, and then the spiritual body was being nourished, but it was at one. It was an at oneness, that one couldn't be there without the other. And I have to say, I'm not in my profession for anyone else. I'm in it for me, because I'm in that absolutely honoured situation of actually being able to live whatever the force was there at a very early age, that I've been able to actually support myself. I was supporting a child when I first graduated. I had full support of him. The money, there were enough clients. I didn't advertise, but there were always enough clients for me to support him, and it supported me in that way. So, you know, when you're in this profession, you touch people so deeply. And that's the honouring, that people honour me. They make appointments, but I get the honouring. I do what I'm called to do, but I don't do it for them. I do it for me. And I've been so fortunate for over 40 years to be in that position.
It's very, very beautiful. I hope one day you're going to write your memoirs, write your autobiography, because it's fascinating, really.
Well, everybody has a story. And, you know, when you can say, look, this is really at the end of time, like I'm getting older, and I mean, I feel well and everything, but, you know, when the time comes, and like the talk was the day before yesterday was your talk on time, that if you've used your time, that I wouldn't really change anything, because all the ups and downs and everything have kind of, you know, just they make you who you are, and you get that depth of richness. If I hadn't been in quite a precarious situation 30 years ago, I wouldn't have taken on meditation as deeply as I did. But to save myself, that's really what I had to do. I thought I was still doing all the food and health and whatever, but I needed more of the spirit, because my life had just fallen apart. It was very precarious, and I just thought, I've got to go somewhere, and the only way is in. And that's served me all this time, because happiness isn't out there, it's within. And that's the only place to go, because you can't, with acquisition style happiness, which is I've got my, family, I've got a house, I've got a car, I've got money in the bank. That true happiness only exists if that's taken away, and you can still be happy. So I more opt for, deep sense of joy, contentment and peace, rather than happiness, because it's kind of it can be a little bit transient, a little bit misunderstood is probably the word, a bit misunderstood, because we can have everything and I look, yeah, okay. So, that's that. So that's how about another question?
Very good. And you have 3 sons, is that right?
Yes.
And little grandchildren. Do you think that they're carrying through what they were taught as children from you?
Well, certainly my sons, all very much involved in, their wellness, good food, particularly the youngest. But I mean, no, I can't say particularly. It's just all of them. And my son is in a really, again, like a precarious situation in the north of California, in the middle of the pandemic that's really impacting them over there. And he has a premature baby with a compromised lung condition. So, and his partner his wife actually just contracted COVID. So it's been a very, very troubling couple of weeks, but the baby tested clear, his little brother tested clear, and my son tested clear. So I don't know how that happened. That was another gift that came.
Oh my goodness.
But my son, in the trauma with the little 3-year-old, has decided his therapy, and I didn't tell him to do this, but he started growing a garden for both of them. So the little 3-year-old, who only sees his brother with tubes, and his brother's going on 9 months old, but he's never without his tube. He's got feeding tube, oxygen tube, and that we don't know how he's computing that, and that his brother could have died at any moment and was born at 26 weeks. So anyway, Aaron's decided that the best therapy is for them to grow a garden together. So the little 3-year-old goes out to the garden and says hello to his vegetables. They're even growing herbs and things like lemon balm, which I thought we've lived with and he's had all his life, but he's even growing lemon balm, which is a calming digestive herb. And I was so proud of him when he said that, and he said the herbs are all coming on and the veggies. So that's the way to ground the stress of that little boy who's only 3. And so Aaron follows that. He cooks healthy food. He lives that, and the other 2 are just the same. And the little granddaughter in Byron, up near Byron Bay, I mean, she just eats anything, all good food, only good food, and she's always ready, and she's a very vibrant child. So Lyndon is encouraging that.
I think that shows their faith and love for you, because it's not easy to follow that sort of diet in these days with all the sweets and, sugars.
I didn't ever have to tell them not to go to a fast food outlet, or they preferred to eat at home, or they'd cook up something. And some of the dishes they do are they're more skilled than what I would do, like especially Soren's grasp of Japanese cooking, because he was in Japan for 7 years. Yeah. But, just the wonderful blending of flavours, that's what they love. And there's always the health, always good food.
Oh, that's just beautiful. And in this time, when people are in the lockdown, have you found more people coming to you, or with different problems, or has it made any difference, do you think?
Well, they're not coming in, and I'm still only doing FaceTime, Skype, Zoom. I've done Zoom, and phone consultations because of we have to sterilise everything, and I haven't felt that I haven't felt terribly comfortable about, being. I'm in a smaller consulting room since I moved home last year. That I'm in a smaller space now, and I just wanted to honour that. But all those consultations are working well. But it was in the beginning that there was this. I was getting calls of panic-stricken people, and I think because I wasn't watching the news then, I didn't know what was being said, but I know now that it was expect a catastrophe, and I was getting lots of calls from clients who were, just asking me, well, what are you doing? What can we do? And I thought, look, nothing I have in my dispensary is going to kill that virus. And so I just sort of tried to just support them emotionally and just wait, and trust. And then just gradually it started to simmer, kind of settle down a bit, and we could see that we weren't getting into the catastrophe appeared to be like a little lower. And so now, I'm just absolutely delighted to supply medicines that I know are just supporting them because they ask me. I only do medicines when I'm asked. And there are lots of those going out, but just supportive, not particularly virus related. They're not about, oh, well, I've got an immune problem or whatever. They're just people just wanting to stay healthy and that kind of thing. So it hasn't really made, now that it's settled down, things are much more normal. People ring now for more normal things, that's all, just their usual.
Mm. What advice would you give people who are feeling maybe a bit down because of the virus, because of being locked down in their place?
Well, the big one that would heal it forever is to come to terms with the fact that we're not separate and we're not isolated. It's not easy to arrive at that because it's a natural thing from birth that we're given a name, we're an individual, we have a mother, a father, we have, and then life goes on like that. We live in a suburb, in a country. So all the time, the ego mind, the left side of the brain, is being fed all this information about who we're told we are. And so the right brain's kind of out there in nirvana, in heaven. This is from neuroscience. We know that the right brain operates totally different to the left side. We need both, but there's not enough right brain activity, which is the stimulating creative forces, meditation for children, kind of healthier, more supportive things rather than things from outside, things we buy at supermarket, at toy shops and things. But if some of the alternative schools do this, where they, have little meditation circles and things, so that helps to train people to be more than the smallness of the body. So that's the one, but then that takes almost a lifetime to get. You can get it straight away if you want, but you're not isolated, you're not alone. But the next one would be go to nature. And you can work with the at oneness to start with nature and meditation, because meditation, as it taught me, that when life was about 30 years ago, that was very rocky and sort of changing, the sands were shifting, that I had somewhere to go and I didn't have to run away to do it. I just had to run inside. So the meditation does it in the end, like if you just keep doing it, and then that kind of feeling of oneness comes, regardless of you being in a place where you can't go out, or we can go out a little more now, but I know a lot of people are reluctant to. They're feeling, some have really enjoyed it. They've enjoyed for the first time probably in many, many years where they've had time to themselves. They've had time to think. They've had choices in life, like, well, what do I do today? I would normally do this or that, or go and do this, and they're actually not. They're staying put, and they found it very rich, where others have actually become quite depressed, and our mental health was failing in many areas. So it's kind of up to the individual, but I always look at just simple solutions. But the biggest thing in life, and I know just for myself, is not to feel separate. And that's the greatest gift you can have, that you belong to the world, you belong to the cosmos, you belong to the God force, you're never alone, and you've got that spirit inside. So if you're driven by spirit, that's always there. It never leaves you. It's only your own mind that takes it away from you, and that is the hell of the left brain, because the left brain is intellectualizing and saying, oh, this is bad, this is good, oh, I can't do this, and it's always intellectualizing, where the right brain is actually like mainlining from heaven. And it's so interesting, we have this in our head. Like this, we have this in our head, a right brain, a left brain. So it all becomes so fascinating. And then miracle-mindedness helps. This is miracle-mindedness. It's like looking beyond the body. And because of all the study I've done, which I'm very interested in, neuroscience and new science, cosmology and everything, and how our bodies fit in with that. And, just even having a memory is fascinating. So I kind of live life every day in awe of being in a body, but not in the body. Like, I'm in the body, but I'm not in the body. I'm everywhere, like all of us are. We don't start and finish where we think we do. So we're emanating energy all the time. Our brains have got like I've heard like 25 watt glows in our brain, but the whole body will glow with electrons as a 50 watt globe. So we're generating that electricity all the time. And so that goes out everywhere. Now, time, am I?
Can I just ask if there's any questions up there, Sriram? No, not any questions. Okay, if you have any questions, be quick. So now what I was going to say, the talks that we've been having, I know you've been watching. Do you feel that's helped people?
Oh, well, I know how they helped me to start with, and I told many people about them because they were a lifeline. I felt personally I was cut off. I come over here every week. I've been coming here since 2007, regularly every week, unless I'm away, but coming over every week. And it's like my family, my home, my second home. And I just felt the shock of not being able to come here. And then when the talk started, it was just, I thought, this is just so good. And then I was telling people about them, and people I know have been watching them. And I just found them, quite a few, if not most, that I listened to, if not all, they'd have just that gem of the day that I could carry into the day of, just some little thing. And I thought, oh, yes, I'll remember that. Like the one Rohit with the time thing the other day, and then, of course, Charlie with forgiveness, but so many of them, on and on. Warren was another one I was profoundly moved by, and all of them. And I just thought, what a gift. See, these things just happen. We didn't know COVID was happening, and it kind of rocked everybody, but next thing, the bucket's full again, and in a different way. So that's where you can live in awe of all you have to do really is wait and see what happens. You think, oh, okay, this has happened. Now let's wait and see how the universe responds. And it does, always. It's always, well, I've lived long enough to actually say that in my experience of life is that I'm never left. I've never, I never feel that, like when at the worst time, I just felt that I could go within, and that was the beginning of like over 30 years of meditation and spiritual nourishment that I've searched, like always had. In fact, as a little girl, I not only going to church, but I used to dress up as a nun.
Oh.
And again, at about maybe 7 or 8, I remember putting this thing on my head and standing in front of the mirror and feeling very comfortable being dressed as a nun. So it was
I
just
think, very spiritual.
well, just that seeking that it doesn't, you don't ask for it, and you don't, it's not by design. It's divine design, or it's whatever it is that comes through us as we're born into an incarnation.
Yes, very much so, and it's universal spirituality.
It's everyone, whether they know it or not.
Exactly. There's a question.
Hi, I'm watching from the room. Just wanted to know, I've been listening to your experiences and all this, talking to people who are overwhelmed. Your favourite plants for feeling overwhelmed, your favourite foods, what should we be eating?
Yeah.
You know, what should we be taking in with all of your beautiful experience with herbs?
Well, I've been meditating with a group, and we always have the lemon balm and lemon verbena tea. I take that. I've wild harvested it all, and it's been given to me, so I've got good supplies. So we do the calming teas. There are mood foods that if people are feeling more depressed, it's having very good fats and oils and greens protect the brain. And, things like very good extra virgin olive oil and things like avocados and good fats actually help the brain, because if the brain, huge amount of the brain is fat. And if the brain is drying out without enough dietary fat and the nutrients, and also to eat food, to eat, not to go without food, because when the vagus nerve is a bit inflamed with stress or anxiety, the first thing is you can lose your appetite. And that's the worst thing to do, because then your brain's not getting enough glucose, and it takes up glucose day and night, 24 hours a day. And so to not eat. So it would be eating just everything with high nutritional value and just good food, just made from scratch, fresh, however clean it can be. I'm very big on organics for the planet as well as for us, but whatever you can get, but so long as the food is, as good as it can be. But we do know that brain protective foods are the greens and the oils, good fats. So a bit of coconut oil is good too, or something cooked in coconut oil is another beneficial thing for the brain. The brain will take that up. So, any good food would be a medicine. That's what I believe in. Like, all food's a medicine, and that's what's driven me all my life to food, knowing that everything good is a medicine. And but just avoiding caffeine, that's the big thing. Avoiding caffeine and processed carbs and things without any nutritional value. All they'll do is spike you, and then you dip, and then you feel really bad. So you feel worse. Well, it just feeds the condition. And then if you get out to nature and you see a few little things around that, like some herbs growing by the wayside, if you know what they are, you could make a little tea or have a little bit in your... I'm big on the dandelions and things, but you've got to be careful where you pick them and that they're the right ones. So
that's beautiful, Kay. You can see why we call her our angel. She's our angel. And to finish with, Kay, what about a little snippet of what you've arranged when you leave this body? What have you asked for? You told me.
when I leave the body, well, I just want to float around with God for quite a while, and my angels that have come to me and protected me, and this voice I hear inside me, that I'll meet all that in, I will meet that in without the body.
But what about you? A certain box and about where you wanted to be?
Oh, I see what you mean, because I don't think I'd be just so, at times I think we all feel the body just feels so heavy and so difficult at times. But, oh no, I'm having a green burial and I'll be buried in a cardboard box with no plastic lining. I'll have this is all in my will, you know, it's all sorted out, the green burial. And my body, which has been nourished by the earth for however many years, will then nourish a native tree. And I'd like a silver princess gum tree to be planted at just where I'm laid in this cardboard box. And because it's cardboard, it'll decompose and there'll be no plastic, so it'll feed the tree. And the silver princess is such a beautiful, it's the blossom. It's like the blossom, you know, those snuggle pot and cuddle pie, the little skirt, the little blossom skirt. And I absolutely love it. And where I've moved to live now, there is a similar thing like a silver princess that flowers there in a garden not so far away from where my unit is. So that will be my, letting go, but I won't be there. I'll be looking and hoping they do the right thing and that they
making sure.
That's all. But that gives me peace to know that all those fumes from a cremation and everything, with all the emissions I've tried to save in this lifetime, that I don't want those. I just want this very simple thing, and hopefully I'll be just floating in bliss and have those beautiful entities around that I can actually meet them in spirit.
That is so beautiful.
A question from one of our virtual people who says that you're inspirational this morning and wanted to know about your opinion about vitamin D at this time and avoiding refined sugar, and whether they were things you would think about. So this is a question from someone online.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I'm definitely big on vitamin D. If you're a mountain person especially, because we don't get the sunshine, the deficiencies in vitamin D are very, very high in general population now. I believe anything below the Tropic of Capricorn, which is way up in Queensland, but we're we're just covered up. We don't get enough vitamin D from the sun. The older we get, the harder it is to actually metabolize the vitamin D. So I supplement myself, and I believe most of my clients, I get them tested if they haven't had a test, and I certainly find most of them are low. I rarely find anyone who's not who's got adequate levels of vitamin D. And of course, what we've found is the connection with low vitamin D and autoimmune diseases, cancers, and so forth. So yes, vitamin D. Now, refined sugar isn't worth any place in the world. It's a poison, really. In fact, there's a Dr. Gillespie who's written a book called Sweet Poison. And, I haven't read the book because I know about white sugar, but it's, with the rise in diabetes and obesity, all those things, white sugar just doesn't have a place in our diets or even on supermarket shelves taking up space. It's in so many foods that, you hardly know it's in there. It's in tomato passata sauces, it's in baked beans, it's in all those things, and it really shouldn't be there. Well, shouldn't isn't a good word, but it's not helpful. No. It's not helpful. Any more questions? Mm-hmm.
Is green tea good for us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I drink it almost every day, but I do get the Japanese leaf green tea, And it has so many benefits. And I've been to Japan many times. My son lived there for 7 years. The health of Japanese people is just outstanding, and green tea is always there. When you arrive, even in a hotel, you get a flask of freshly made green tea. It's got benefits for brain health. It's got benefits for liver, kidneys, hormonal balance, and, you know, like 1,000 other things. But it also has, what they've found is there's a little bit of caffeine in it, but it's got a brain calming effect with that. And I've proved that myself, that I can have it if I'm being very busy and I don't have my green tea till, say, 4:30, which normally I'd never have a caffeinated drink. But if I do green tea, I still sleep very well at night. And because they found this must be part of the makeup. Again, this miracle, the miracle mindedness that created all these things. But I do only drink leaf green tea. Sencha has the highest antioxidant content, the catechinic acids, and you make it with 75-degree water to no more than 80 degrees, because you kill the goodness in it. And of course there's the matcha, which is very strong. That's the powder, and you know, that's a ceremonious drink, and the Japanese thrive on it.
And the last question is, does everything happen for a reason? And do you think it happens at when the time is right? So this is looking at the other side of your belief system. That's from someone online as well.
Always. There are things that it's the mystery of life. We don't know. All we know is that if you live long enough, you can think, gee, that didn't feel good at the time, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me. You know, I have clients coming, I've worked with cancer for years from the beginning of my career, and people with cancer would say, I've heard it so many times, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I'm now living. I'm living the life that I feel I was meant to live, because I've taken away, the things that I was oblivious to, like that weren't serving me. And now I'm actually living my truth, because I've had to grab on the edge of that cliff. They grab the little tree or the twig, to stop them falling over, and they haul themselves up, and it's a whole new life. So, I believe everything happens for a reason, and a lot of it's generated from our own subconscious. We attract what we need. We mightn't think, gee, why did I do this? But you find out after a while that it was exactly right.
Well, thank you so much, Kay. That was just so beautiful. And anyone who's watching, I hope you take benefit from those beautiful words from Kay. And we'd like to finish with a couple of minutes meditation, and we'll send love and peace and happiness to people that are suffering, or animals that are suffering, any suffering. We're going to just have 2 minutes sending love to those people or animals. Or would you like to do that?
Definitely animals, yes, and the plants. The plants.
And the plants.
Yes. Very
the gardens.
So, yes. And all the goodness in every human being, it's all there.
Thank you so much.
That's it.
Om Shanti.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Kay. So beautiful.